All right, the next topic is going to be on circumference. The first thing we're going to do is define circumference. What is it? Then I'm going to model some practice problems and also show you what it means, the difference between rounding the length of a circle's circumference or finding the exact answer, meaning you would be leaving it in terms of pi. So the circumference of a circle is actually the distance around the circle. So if I were to measure from one side of the circle to the other, it's how long it would be, okay? And the number pi is the ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. And that information helps us create a formula to use. There's two formulas that we can use. We usually use a capital C to represent circumference, okay? It can either equals pi times the d, which stands for diameter, or circumference equals 2 pi r, where r represents the radius. Okay, so d is the diameter, r is the radius, and both of these make sense because to find diameter, we just multiply the radius by 2. Okay, so it doesn't matter which formula you use, they find the same things. So our first problem here is to find the circumference of the circle below. Round your answer to the nearest tenth. So you can either use 2 pi r or pi times the diameter. Whichever one you prefer. Looking at this picture, this measurement goes from one side to the other. Both endpoints are on the circle and it goes to the center, which means the diameter has to equal 6 centimeters. So in this case, it would make more sense to use pi times diameter. Does it really matter? No. You can tell me that the radius is 3 and substitute in here. It's the same deal. So we would do circumference equals pi times 6. And in the past, we often used 3.14 for pi, but now that you guys are in high school, we usually use the pi button on the calculator. So if you're using a graphing calculator at home or using Desmos, whatever you may be using, you want to make sure that you're using the pi button. So we would do 6 times pi, 6 times pi, if I can find it on here. Okay. We get that it equals 18.849, and it goes on and on and on and on because we know that pi has so many values in there. We want to round to the nearest tenth, so the tenth place is just one place, okay? So this would be 18.8, and it's not just 18.8, it's 18.8 centimeters. That means that from here to here, okay, if I were to measure that, if I took a measuring tape from one side of the circle to the other, measuring all the way around, it would equal 18.8 centimeters. Okay, next page. A circle has a radius of 14 inches. Find its circumference, round to the nearest tenth. So we're going to do the same exact thing that we were doing before, except this time we might use the radius one. The circumference equals 2 pi r. So we have 2 times pi times the radius, which is 14. So when we multiply this into our calculator, okay, we multiply 28 times pi, you're going to get 43.98, which if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, would be 44 inches, which again means if I had a circle and I were to cut it right here and took a measurement from here to here, it would equal 44 inches. Okay, so in the past two problems we have been rounding, so we were not getting exact values. This time I'm going to show you how to do this by leaving your answer in terms of pi. And when we leave our answers in terms of pi, we're getting exact values. Because we know if I could spell, we know that pi goes on forever and ever and ever, so when we're rounding, we're taking away a little bit of the number, right? We want an exact answer, we're going to leave it in terms of pi. You'll notice it's still a circle with a radius of 14 inches, find its circumference, so we're still using circumference equals 2 pi r. We're going to substitute 2 times pi times 14, because we're just substituting for the r. I want you to multiply the two things that don't have pi. Okay, so 2 times 14 is 28. Okay, to leave it in terms of pi, you always multiply all the numbers together, do all the rest of the math, except putting pi into your calculator. You don't want to put pi in your calculator. I just multiplied 2 times 14. We tack that pi symbol right at the end, and then we would write inches. This is your final answer here. 28 pi inches is an exact measurement of that circumference. Okay, so again, when we leave things in terms of pi, we put everything into our calculator except the actual pi symbol. The 28 pi, tacking that pi in, tells me that, okay, we would multiply that pi in, but we want an exact answer, so here it is. Now I'd like you to pause this video, unpause it once you have answers, and we'll check them. So pause your video, 2 times 17. So the answers you should be getting is that it equals 34 pi inches for an exact answer. Okay, so this one's the exact. Or, if we multiply this times pi, we get that our other answer would also be 106.8 inches. And this would be the rounded answer. And that is all we have on circumference.